Hello, so you're welcome to FDsciences. So we've treated parasology, we've done so well in parasology. And in the comment section, I saw that you guys appreciated the questions that came out in the parasology in your previous exam. So we are going to be introducing another course which is for basic medical students, precisely for clinical medicine and basic medical sciences like med lab, nursing students, anatomy, pharmacy, and so on. So the medical genetics is the name of the course. So we're going to be treating on the medical genetics, but at first the introduction to medical genetics, because you need to know what medical genetics is all about before you start venturing into genetics itself. So the introduction to medical genetics, we're going to be starting with the history of medical genetics, how it came to be, and now to the main part of genetics, which is the modern genetics introduced by Gregor Mendel. So let's start. So we're going to be explaining on what is genetics. So what is actually genetics? You've been hearing about genetics. Okay, you must have heard of genetics in your primary school or secondary school, but most times you don't venture into it or you don't elaborate on its space very well. You just glance through it or skim through the meaning of genetics without knowing the actual meaning of genetics. But now you are a medical student, you should know the meaning of genetics before even studying of the cross breeding stuff and all these stuffs. So let's start with the meaning of genetics. So genetics is actually carved or coined from a root of Greek word gen, which means to grow or to become. So genetics is called from the root of Greek word gene, which means to grow or to become. So and the name genetics was actually brought by or coined by someone in the name of Batson in the year 1905. These things are not necessary, but in case it comes out in your exam, you can actually beat them up. Know the year, actually, the year matters. The year the name genetics was formed. It was formed by Batson in the year 1905. So we're going to be treating on the basic terms in genetics. So these are the basic things you must know before venturing into genetics. Before you can say you're a genetics student, you must know these things. If you don't know these things, so everything you're studying is just nonsense. So we're going to be treating on four basic things. Is it four? I'll be five. Four basic things, and number one is hereditary. So what is hereditary? Hereditary is just the transmission of trait from parents to offspring, either by asexual means or sexual means. It's actually the transmission of character from parents to their offspring, either by sexual means or by asexual means. So, and this, which we all know happens in human beings. So, medical genetics has to do with human beings and living organisms. So, when you're talking about medical genetics, you're talking about living organisms. This time we don't have to talk about plastics, inanimate subject objects or other things. You just talk about living organisms because it deals with traits, characters, and you know that one of the characteristics of living things is like they are alive, like they can communicate, they feed, um, they go about on movements, all these things now. So these characters are actually inherited, or even facial look, they are inherited from their parents. So this is how everything came to be. So the parents transfers those characters of theirs to their progeny or offspring, you understand? So this is actually the meaning of hereditary. And coming to the second term, we have variation. So what is variation? This is the cause of differences between individual organisms. So the difference between me and you is what you call variation. Difference between me and you, and this might be caused by two things. It can be caused by sexual reproduction or environmental factors. So variation, actually, what I mean by variation is even there's no way two twins like this now can be so identical or have similar proximity to the highest point that you cannot differentiate two of them. There must be variation in between these two, and this is what you'll be studying in genetics. And what actually caused this variation in them? We're going to be treating them in this genetics. So the next one is the meaning of genetics itself. So since we are interested in two particular things, the reason why this organism looks like its parents, and the reason why these two offspring or two identical living have variation in appearance or in any other character or any of the traits. So we're going to be, these are the main keywords we are looking at. These are the main things that gave the interest of studying genetics. So actually, genetics has to do with these two things, and in addition of their units, of their units or what causes this variation or hereditary. So what is genetics? Genetics is actually the study of gene. And what is gene? Gene is the unit of hereditary. So the unit of hereditary is what? Gene. And genetics is the study of gene, the similarities which I've said earlier, that is hereditary, and variation in living things. So this is actually the meaning of genetics. So we are going to be treating on different history, like the history that concern with genetics. But those history we are going to be treating is basically pre-Mendelian history. So Mendelian history is actually the modern history, the genetics we learn in this modern world. This is what we believe in Mendelian's law and not these people's law. So these are actually the theories that are being proved by those men that tried giving out experience on what they learned on genetics. So we have four. I've classified those histories into three basic parts, which are the vapor and fluid theory, the preformation theory, the particulate theory. So we're going to be treating them accordingly. Starting with the vapor and fluid theory, we have that the vapor and fluid theory um, has a prominent man there, which is named Pythagoras. Pythagoras is the prominent man in vapor and fluid theory. So what we're going to study about this Pythagoras is just it's the guy's his contribution to genetic world. We're just going to state the contribution because these things are not actually necessary. Just that in case if you found it in your exam, then if you find it in your exam, so stating the Pythagoras theorem, we're going to be proposing it, not stating it actually. We're going to be proposing its idea. So the idea of Pythagoras states that during reproduction, like in reproduction, the male, that is the father of the offspring, releases what they call coitus. Like releases a moist vector during coitus, that is during reproduction. They releases a moist vector, that is a vapor. A moist vapor. We know that treating vapor and fluid theory. So this Pythagoras is actually under vapor theory. So during coitus or during reproduction, the male the male parent releases what they call vapor, which contributes to 100% of the offspring. So what does this actually mean? That the female doesn't contribute any. So it's actually contributed, everything's contributed by the male. You understand? So that is what Pythagoras said. Then coming to the second um the second theory under vapor and fluid, and this second theory is actually basically on fluid, not on vapor. You should know the differences. And the man behind this second theory is Appendix, who he said that the he said in this theory that the fluid of both parents mixes together to form the embryo. Like the fluid of both parents, this time around, like unlike the Pythagoras, that the two fluid now mixes together to form the embryo. And as a result of the mixing, they give birth to it forms the embryo. Then if there should be an indecent or a mismatch on the mixing of these two fluids, it results to to gender of the offspring. I don't know if you understand this. Like, if by any means there is a defect, yes, let me just put it. If by any means there is a defect in mixing of these two fluids, then it results to the gender of the higher of the non-defected fluid. Now, for instance, now if the fluid of the male and the female should mix together and there is deformity or defect in the fluid of the female, the gender will actually, or the offspring will actually have the characteristics of the male. You understand? So that is if there is defect in the female at the cause of mixing, at the cause of them mixing together. That's what Ependicles actually said. So next person we have here is the great Aristotle. He just prepared the theory of impure blood and pure blood. So as you can see, he prepared the theory of pure and impure blood, and actually he's he's sentencing his theory basically for men, saying that the female occupies the impure blood and the male has the pure blood, which actually makes the male contribute most of the embryo formation. So what he's trying to say is that the female has the impure blood and the male has the pure blood, and which if they combine, the pure blood supersedes the impure blood, thereby giving birth to an offspring that has most of the male characteristics or embryo formed basically by the male trait. Then we also have one important guy here, which is the hypocrites. The hypocrites also state that everything is being handed over directly to their progeny, like everything in the body, like that have been gotten from different parts of the body, are handed directly to their offspring or progeny. So now the second theory we're treating, like we said earlier, we have three. I classified them into three theories: the vapor and fluid theory, then the preformation theory, and the particulate theory. So the second theory we have here is the preformation theory. The preformation theory. So coming to the preformation theory, we have one material we're going to be discussing, like going to be sentencing on this material, and the material is the homunculus. The material is called homunculus. So homunculus is, so whenever you hear of preformed, it means it's formed before it's being reproduced. So it's actually formed before it's being reproduced. It's actually formed either in the male or in the female. So it's actually formed either in the male or in the female. And if it's actually formed in the male before it's being produced, it's called the animalculist. It's called it's called this is called the spermacist or the animalculist. On then if it's actually produced in the female before it's being reproduced, it's called the ovalist. So now the if the homunculus is found in the male before reproduction, it's believed is the animalculus. Then if it's found in the female before reproduction, it's believed that is the ovalist. So now they have been they are dragging between this male stuff and the female, whether the homunculus is preformed first in the male or in the female. So this dragging is basically for two schools that are undergoing genetic study. Then this is actually the study. This is actually the image of the homunculus. As you can see, they are already formed already. Like they are formed even before they are produced. So they are formed even um before fusion. They're even formed even before fusion. Then when fusion happens, then there is little nourishment or development. But they believe that this preformation theory believes that the homunculus is formed either in the male or in the female before reproduction. So we have contributions in this preformation theory. We have contributions of different men in this preformation theory. We have someone like the Anton van Leeuwenhoek. So the Anton van Leeuwenhoek. So he said that he sentenced on he stressed on the sperm association with egg, and he said that sperm actually is the life itself, and the egg gives the embryo its nourishment. So we also have another person another important person, we have Leonardo da Vinci. He said that there's equal contribution of the male and female parents, unlike the man we just said now. The idea is Anton van Leeuwenhoek. Anton said that the male actually gives the life through the sperm and the female gives the embryo nourishment. Why the Leonardo da Vinci said that there's equal contribution of both parents to form the embryo. That is the equal contribution of both parents preformed materials to form the embryo. So now we have um, a contradiction to this preformed theory, which is the epigenetic theory. The epigenetic theory that the epigenetic theory is coined by the K.F. Wolf. So he countered this theory of preformed theory and brought out another theory known as the epigenesis. So let us look at the theory of epigenesis. So the theory of epigenesis is actually called by K.F. Wolf, and it states that the it says that there's no preformed material or homunculus. Rather, the homunculus they have. He said that there's no preformed material in the ovary or sperm. Rather, there is a homogeneous living substance capable of forming the organized body after fertilization, which is not homunculus. So he's actually countered on this homunculus, saying that there's no preformed theory, there's no preformed material before reproduction. So he's saying that there's no preformed material before reproduction. Rather, there is a homogeneous substance which actually undergoes development to give birth or to produce this main embryo we're talking about. So he sentenced more on material, homogeneous living substance that actually undergoes development or during fertilization gives birth to embryo. Rules will keep coming up, laws and theories will keep coming up. Then, after he had made his own contribution over genetics, someone else came over and attached his own idea, and this idea is the theory of the pangenesis, the pangenetic theory. So let's read out the pangenetic theory and see what it has for us. So let's read it. The pangenetic theory states that we have different people that contributed to this pangenetic theory, first of all, and the main man here we have is the Maptetius. That actually, let's read out his contribution. So the French biologist, the Maptetius, he said that there is equal. Let me just like in what Da Vinci said about equal contribution of the homunculus. But now this man is saying that there's equal contribution, that is by parental inheritance. Like the embryo has equal inheritance from the mother and the father. You see that there is evolution in this. According to what the idea we have now, our recent idea, so that you can relate it to what this man is saying here, that there's by parental inheritance of the embryo. So he now said that you should know that the domination of either semen leads to child's gender. So if there is biparental inheritance from both, then if anyone should dominate the other, it leads to child's gender. What is this trying to tell you? That if there is the homogeneous mixture of both semen we've talked about, then if the female semen should dominate the male semen, so their child will actually be the female, will be a female, not a male. You understand? That is the theory of domination, or the pangenetic theory that our man here, Mapterus, Mapetius said. So let's look at another theory. We also have Darwin's theory. So I'm going to read now this small stuff we have here. Darwin actually modified this pangenetic theory, and he said that every somatic cell and body tissue releases pangenes or gemmules acquired, and these gemmules are acquired and are parental character, which collect at the gametes and are passed to growth of different parts of embryo to give the offspring. So what is he trying to say? That every somatic cell and tissue in the body produces what we call the gemmules, and these gemmules collect, they move to the female or the male organ or their garment. They move to their garments and are passed out during fertilization, or during they are passed out during reproduction to give the offspring itself. So the characters of both male and female parents, maybe in the head, the facial expression collects in the facial expression, the facial character known as the gemus moves down to the garments and is being recorded there. Then another one from the upper limb moves down to the garment and they are recorded there. Then another one from the leg also comes up to the garment. All of them now comes to the garment and they are recorded there. Then during production, they are passed out as one entity, contributed by both parents, abi, and they give birth to what? The offspring. That is just the theory of the theory modified by Darwin's. So now, but we have a contradiction to this theory by Weismann and Galton. So let's look at what they say. They say that they produced, they modified it. I would say they modified it because saying that there is gemus, they actually made an attempt by saying that there is gemus that came out from different parts of the body and collected in the garments and passed out to the offspring. Now, the Weismann and Galton theory, after contradicting contradicting um after contradicting Darwin's theory, they say that there's actually two entities we are going to be looking at, which is the germplasm and somatoplasm. You see that the germplasm, they are gotten from the reproductive cell, and the somatoplasm are gotten from the somatic cell. So whenever you hear of somatic, what comes to your mind? Other parts of the body are exempting the productive parts. So the head, neck, exempting the reproductive part, and the germplasm, which is the reproductive part. So now, then, to prove their points, they actually made an experiment. They brought a mice, like a small rat, and they cut the tail of the mice. They cut the tail of the mice, and actually, the tail is actually a somatic product, a somatic material of the body, because it doesn't contribute to the reproductive system of the production process of the mice or the rats. So now they cut the they cut the they cut the mice tail and went further. They cut the mice tail and made it to mate with another mice. Then their progeny, after the mating, they gave birth they gave birth to another mice, which they examined. Then the new mice they gave birth to, that is the progeny of the mice, that is the generation of the mice they gave birth to. Now, instead of losing the tail they extracted from their parents, they noticed that these new mice actually have the same tail, like unlike the parents they cut their tail. So what does this mean? Actually means that the contribution of the germplasm doesn't have any effect to the somatoplasm. That means if I should cut the leg of the mice, it doesn't affect the reproductive process of the next generation. It doesn't affect the reproductive process of the next generation. That is, if they should mate together, if the mice without tail should mate with a mice with tail, they will give birth to a mice with tail, because the tail part is a somatoplasm, and it doesn't have any effect to the germplasm, which is the cell or the reproductive part, the sex or the reproductive parts of the mice. So hope you got everything clearly.